with a couple of people and create mini editor. So you have the option to like input your HTML, the style sheets, and the JavaScript, and you have an iframe and see a preview of what you've done. And that one is only like 186 characters. So I'm gonna explain it a bit what's going on here. So you have a body, and in the body there's an iframe, and on load it like generates different text areas for like the HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. And as soon as you like input something into the field, it updates the source doc of the iframe with the script and the style and the HTML. So you have like the preview of what you will see. Quite cool.